Dive into acting until a little later in your life. What was that pivotal moment when you realized this was the career path for you?
Yeah, it's strange because there really was like one specific moment. It was like a very like turn on the dime kind of thing that happened. But yeah, I mean, look, I was a very I don't know, strange, introverted, very shy kid, and all through elementary school into high school. And the thought of like ever doing something where I would get on stage or get in front of the camera was just out of the question. But when I went to college, I'm from Indiana. I went to Indiana University. I started to I thought that maybe it'd be good for me to just sort of give it a try because weirdly it was something that was always in my mind. It was almost like a dare to myself to like like maybe attempt something that just scared the crap out of me,
Mhm.
acting. So I started taking acting classes in college, and they did scare the crap out of me. But it was sort of an elective thing. I wasn't like a theater major or anything like that, and I was doing it for fun. But I met some friends in the classes and stuff. So anyway, college is going on. I'm going into my senior year for my philosophy degree, and a friend that I had made in one of the acting classes was directing this theater show, Suburbia by Eric Bogosian, and we were just like at a party one night or something, and she was casting the show, and she was like, I think you'd be good for the lead of this show. Will you please come audition? I was like, yeah, sure. And then I never showed up because I was still just like not too scared, really. I mean, it was a fear thing back then. But I guess they did a round of auditions. They didn't really find the guy. So then she came back to me and she was like, please, will you just come read? And long story short, I went and I did the reading, and they cast me. And through the run of that play, really, I'd say like opening night, during the rehearsal process, I made some friends that are still my closest friends today. I mean, we're what, like 16, 17 years removed now. But it was just this weird transformational thing that happened during this very short rehearsal process and then opening night of doing that play, where afterward I was talking to my buddy Derek that I met doing that show. We had become very tight very quickly, and we were kind of like, let's just give this a shot. So by the time we graduated a few months later, instead of going to grad school, which is what I thought I would end up doing, we jumped in a truck and drove to LA and just tried to figure out how to get into audition rooms, and that happened
Mm.
eventually. So yeah, so that's how it kind of worked out.
This might actually be the answer to this next question, but when you look
Yeah.
at your career as a whole, who or what has had the biggest influence on you, either personally or professionally?
There's been lots of influences in different ways, right? So like just from like a purely kind of from like a creative standpoint, there are of course actors that I really look up to and whose work I really admire, from like Henry Fonda to Philip Seymour Hoffman to Ben Mendelsohn, whoever, and like people who I like I pay attention to what they've done, and for those, and for actors who are still with us, obviously, for what they are doing, and I learn a lot from what they're doing, and they've definitely been influences on me. But there are other influences too, like like my wife, who's an actor, and just the way that she sort of approaches this life and how she prioritizes things,
Mm.
is really she's taught me a lot over the years, just about how to make this, this career kind of how it should sort of be compartmentalized into a broader life, and my manager John Pierce has been a big influence. He was kind of he was sort of the guide for me when I first started. So yeah, those are a few, I'd say.
Yeah, if your two kids wanted to follow in you and your wife's footsteps, what advice would you give them?
Oh God, please don't. Anything, anything but this bizarre. Uh, no, I mean, if my kids wanted to do this type of thing, I would say, look, I think it's what I would tell anybody who decided that this was something that they wanted to dedicate their professional life to, and that essentially you got to be doing it for the right reasons, and I think the right reasons are because you can't really see yourself doing anything else because you really love it, and because it's something that you kind of just need and have to do, because you have this thing in you there's this necessity to express something through this particular medium. Really learn what it means to be an actor from the creative side, from the business side. If it's stage that you want to do, really develop a relationship with that medium. If it's film and TV, to develop a relationship with those mediums and really understand them, and understand the power that they have, how they're unique, what they can accomplish that maybe like music or creative writing or painting can't accomplish, and vice versa. I think those things are important, because if you don't have that, then you're probably not gonna last for decades and decades. So, and save your money, kids, too.
Great advice. You've had a lot of success throughout your career. When you look back, is there one particular moment that stands out to you?
Yeah, well, I mean, there are a couple. So I did this show a long time ago called Greek on ABC Family,
Yeah.
back when ABC Family was a thing. I'm dating myself, but back when that was a channel. And that was cool. I mean, that job changed my life for many reasons. I mean, I met my wife doing that job, but that was my first kind of long stint on a TV show, and that felt like a success. I kind of got used to working, and I got used to what it meant to be showing up to a job week after week and really working. But when I did The Walking Dead, I think that was the first time that you as an actor, as a working actor, you spend a lot of your time just sort of in this state of basically anonymity, running around to auditions, hoping that you land a job, and then showing up to set and doing the job, doing the guest star. Maybe you get lucky and get a pilot and it doesn't go, and whatever. And it's a fun life, but you're just a sort of a working bee, worker bee, whatever. When The Walking Dead came around, suddenly it felt like there was a little bit of a tension on it. Suddenly it was
Yeah.
like producers, casting directors, and that thing kind of suddenly know your name, and they're calling about you, and that was new to me. That was totally new. That had never happened. And I'd been working for a while before I did that. But that was a strange experience. And then, but it was kind of eye opening, and it was like the first taste of like, oh, this is kind of that sort of next level, which was sort of fun to experience. And then, working on Once Upon a Time was, it felt like that too, just because I was so lucky to jump into a show that had a huge fan base and that was very successful for so many years. And then, I got introduced later in the show, and I kind of got to just ride that train. And, that was cool to get to experience something like that. I'd never been on like I never had such a integral part on a hit show like that. So
Mhm.
that was fun. That was, definitely a high point for sure.
Yeah, you've got a new project coming out soon. Can you tell us about So Cold, the river, your character, and what drew you to this project?
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, so many things drew me to this project, not the least of which the writer director is a very close friend of mine. I've
Yeah.
worked with him before. Paul Schulberg, he's a super, super talented guy. That's just reason one of like 100. But so this is a story that, so it's based on the novel by Michael Carita, who is a terrific writer, genre writer. I'm a big fan of his novels. He's a fellow Hoosier. He's also from Indiana. This So Called the River is set in Indiana. Now, the cool thing about this too, I'm born and raised in Indiana. I went to IU. A lot of people don't know about this, but in southern Indiana, there is this historic resort called the French Lick West Baden Resort. It's like the largest domed structure in North America or something crazy like
Oh,
that.
cool.
I had heard about it when I was living there. I'd never actually been there. It's sort of ironic that moving to California and then starting this career is what brought me back to be able to actually like go see this like really cool thing that existed in the southern part of my state that I'd never seen. but this novel so it's essentially about this documentarian, this documentary filmmaker played by Joy Lenz, who is kind of down and out. Her career has sort of gone south a little bit, but she gets this opportunity to make this film about this very mysterious figure by the name of Campbell Bradford, who disappeared, but he had these strange ties to this resort, this really historic, famous resort with all this lore attached to it that actually exists in southern Indiana. It's this real place. So she has to go there to investigate, essentially, and find out who this guy was, what his ties to this place were. And the deeper she digs, the more she finds that this resort sort of wields this strange force and this strange power, and it starts to reveal things about herself, about
Mhm.
other people, about about her subject. But that's just sort of the beginning of it. I mean, comparisons to The Shining are unavoidable because you have this, you have this this sort of grand place, this lodge essentially, and there are these evil forces at work. But there is pretty much the only the two stories kind of diverge from there. But anyway, so this mysterious figure, Campbell Bradford, I play his grandson, and I'm a groundskeeper for the resort. And my character's name is Josiah Bradford in the film. And I'm this sort of very disaffected kind of misfit guy who feels that my family has been cursed because of my grandfather.
Mhm.
And I feel like I've kind of been under, even though he's been gone for a long time, I feel like I'm under the thumb of this this sort of reputation that he has, and this reputation that he's created for the family. So I'm this very kind of unhappy, sort of simmering figure that's kind of wandering the grounds. But then you start to some very strange things about my character get revealed through the course of the film too. But yeah, it's just a really interesting movie based on a really fascinating book about my home state and this really cool actual real historic place that exists there. And it comes out March 25th in theaters, and then a few days later on demand, I think March 29th.
Yeah, what was your character development process like? Because so much of who Josiah is based on his family's past, which we don't see in the film. It's just
And
touched upon.
the first 18 years of my life living in Indiana was all the research I had to do. No, it's funny because this guy is essentially he's the guy who kind of again comes from this strange family. He never really left home,
Mhm.
never like was definitely not going to go get an education or anything like that. Kind of just fell into a job, doesn't really know how to get out, and is just sort of stuck, like very stuck in this place that he desperately wants to get out of. But look, I mean, I'm from small town Indiana. I mean, I know a million people like that. I just, it's easily who I could have potentially become if I hadn't done that show,
Mhm.
if things had gone a little differently. So I definitely related to this character on a lot of levels. And because again, I knew this guy. I knew this guy over and over again growing up. And it was just exciting for me to get to jump into something like this too, because this Josiah character, there's a lot of there's a lot of mystery surrounding him too, which
Yeah.
is always kind of fun to play with. So
Imagine after your run on The Walking Dead, you've been offered a ton of kind of these hard, darker type roles and projects. What is your process like vetting what you decide to go out for and become attached to?
yeah, there are a lot of different reasons to do things or not do things. I mean, if I don't want to put the script down, that's usually a very good sign, but then sometimes it's like, look, I mean, I've read scripts where I'm kind of like, I don't get it, I don't really know if this is going to be that great, I don't know if I like the character or whatever. But then maybe I'll have a chat with the director or something, and they kind of bring something to my attention that I missed or that I wasn't aware
Mm.
of, or we sort of talking through, and I realized, oh, this could actually be really cool. Or sometimes it's just as simple as like, if you admire somebody's previous work, you kind of, I almost don't even need to read the script sometimes, because like that was the case with So Cold the River. Honestly, like Paul, anything, that guy can call me up anytime, say I'm not. He doesn't even need to send me anything. Like just tell me where to show up, and I'm there. Like you'll have those
Yeah.
relationships with some people, which is always fun when that works out that way. Um, but yeah, yeah.
Like you were saying earlier, the resort itself feels like its own character, and you all stayed and filmed on the property. How helpful was that in bringing this universe from the page to the screen?
Oh my God, there's no other way to make this film, because the West Baden Resort is such a it's an omnipresence.
Hmm.
It's just like it's a character, and the setting, and the tone and the vibe of the film. Um, and we lived there, we never left really. We would take like shuttles back and forth to the other resort that's like on the adjacent property, because the casino was over there. We didn't have the casino. We got to take the bus to go go to the casino, but blow all the money that we were making doing this thing. But yeah, a film like this, you couldn't make it any other way. I mean, the Pegasus Pictures, the production company behind it, Indiana-based company, just did it perfectly in terms of making sure we were all there, we all stayed there, we all we're just a part of this place. And man, I'm telling you, like I've never been in a hotel or a resort quite like this. It was just it just had this personality and this presence, and it
Hmm.
had this history that you could feel, and this there was just this vibe, and I loved being there. It was like kind of creepy. It was a little creepy, but I also loved it. I mean, I was there for, I think the duration of the shoot was about 6 weeks or something like that. But and I heard that, so I think it's Erica's room, Joy's character, in the hotel where we did a lot of scenes and stuff. They did set dressing for the room. They kind of changed it a lot, and I guess the resort is keeping it. It's like the
Oh,
so-called
cool.
room now. Yeah, yeah. So it's like, so you can stay there. You can rent that room, and it's all the set dressing just stayed the way that the wallpaper, everything, which is kind of fun. That it'll remain that way, at least for now. So.
Yeah, that's definitely on my bucket list of like places to now go visit.
Man,
Without,
it's you're gonna go, and you're gonna be in the middle of nowhere. You're gonna be like, where the hell am I? Like, why did Andy send me here? And then all of a sudden, there's gonna be out of nowhere this massive dome
Mhm.
structure just pop up out of a field, and you're gonna go in, and you're gonna be like, oh my god, this is amazing. It's on a natural mineral spring, so you can do like, you get in a tub, and like you do the baths, and like I said, there's a casino. It's yeah, it's cool. It's
It's
worth it.
definitely, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And then, without giving any spoilers, there's this really chilling scene that happens about halfway through the film where your character is being interviewed about his grandfather, and there's a switch that happens, and you handle it with such nuance. As an actor, how did you create the space for yourself to dive into that particular moment, and while keeping
Yeah,
it grounded?
it was tricky. That was, hands down the most challenging scene of the entire film. I had lots of conversations with Paul about that scene. We worked it a lot. We did a lot of rehearsals. And I mean, Paul helped me tremendously find those moments, but he helped me. I mean, the guy's so dedicated, and he makes sure that there's time. We were talking about that scene before I even got to Indiana to start
Mm.
shooting. There were many conversations about that scene in particular, and we worked it and we worked it. And so by the time we got to the day where we were shooting it, it actually went pretty smoothly. And I you can prepare so much as an actor, but then whatever happens in front of the camera happens, and you don't want it to feel manufactured. You kind of just hope it gets there. So no matter how much you work it, there's always a little bit of kind of trepidation, and a little bit of like anxiety about like, am I going to get here? Is this going to happen? I hope that it does. um but luckily, all that prep kind of created the strong foundation. And then again, it like being in that place, I'm not sitting on a soundstage somewhere. I was in the lobby of this like very very kind of creepy grand setting. And so all of that helped tremendously. You have to know, there's that change that happens, and I have to know where I am in the very beginning and who I am, and then know very, very specifically where I am going to end up, with, again, without giving too much
Yeah.
away. But yeah, it's kind of a tricky thing, but a lot went into that, a lot of planning and a lot of work for sure.
Yeah, it's a fantastic scene. I had to like go
Thank you.
back and rewatch it just to see where that
Oh
moment
man.
where it kind of clicks.
Oh,
And
thank you. That's
the
awesome.
subtlety of that. Yeah, it's fantastic. And what is it meant?
I've actually only seen a rough cut of the film and some of those scenes too. So I'm excited to see
It's
it
so good.
eventually. Oh, thanks, man. That's awesome.
And you talked about this a little bit earlier, but this film was filmed in Indiana. You're from Indiana. What has it meant to you to get to highlight and showcase your home state in such a big project?
Yeah, it's cool. You know, I mean, it means a lot, and I don't. It definitely means something. It's sort of hard to specifically pinpoint what that is. I mean, it's kind of hard to not have a certain amount of pride about where you come from, and that's always going to be. I think what it is I lived the first 18 years of my life, 22 years of my life, really, in Indiana. Um, and so it's very much a part of who I am. It's always going to be a part of who I am. And so to see it kind of be represented is special. I mean, look, because it's almost like it doesn't matter what movie I watch or book I read or whatever. If there's a reference to Indiana or especially my hometown, it's always like, oh, hey, I know that
Yeah.
place. I'm from there. Like they did this right or they didn't do this right or whatever. You have this sort of personal ownership over that thing. So it's just really fun. It's just special. It just makes you always hope that you're proud of something that you get to work on, but to have it also have that connection just makes it so much more special and exciting, in this kind of strange, ineffable way, I guess. But yeah.